I'd like to open the floor for questions. We've heard a number of common threads between our four participants, that the crisis did not start in the developing world, but has already had a tremendous impact in the developing countries, and particularly here in the Caribbean. Patrick speaks of a hurricane phenomena where old remedies need not to apply, and shared with us a number of perspectives of the impact of this crisis in Trinidad and Tobago, even with the resilience of Trinidad and Tobago. Anthony shared with us his views on financial, fiscal, and monetary policies and some of the implications for the region. Mr. Dukaran talks about new directions and challenges to rethink some of the old policies and how we can learn from the past and formulate a new vision. And Davesh Kapoor outlined a number of systemic effects of the crisis with shifts from the North America, European mode or access to the developing world, the need for new global governance structures, and the role of IMF and other financial institutions, and the impact worldwide. Some very interesting thoughts and perspectives. I'd like to open the floor for questions. We'll take 3 questions or 4 questions at a time and invite the participants to address them. Jane, I see your hand here, and then a gentleman here on the left. So Jane, please.
Thank you for 4 fascinating and very thoughtful presentations. I have 2 questions. One is, it seems to me that one of the things we need to look at is not just the people who are suffering right now, but there are people out shopping. I have a stepson who works for the biggest petrochemical company in Canada, which now belongs to an Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth fund, which evidently owns almost all of the big petrochemical companies in the world. So it seems to me we need to be looking also at who are the people that are out buying up the bargains that are going bankrupt. So I think that's one question I'd like to some feedback on from the panel. The other is the gender balance in all of this. For the first time in the history of the United States, there are more women in the job market than men. Men are losing jobs in the financial sector and the manufacturing sector. They're losing jobs that are making large amounts of money. The women, who are often making much less than their husbands or their partners, are now often the ones who are the breadwinners. It seems to me there could be a lot of social and very gendered consequences of this shift. I think it's also happening in Canada. I don't know where else it's happening in the world, but I wonder what the consequences are going to be of this big shift in the gendered structure of not only who's doing the work, but who's bearing the burden of caring for families and things like that. Okay.
Thank you, Jane. The gentleman here on the left, if you can identify yourself.
I'm Keston Perry of the University of the West Indies. Thank you very much again for very enlightening and interesting presentations. My question, though, very eloquent and very enlightening presentation, Mr. Dukaran. My question deals with the idea of protectionism, and I'm not certain whether or not you were advocating for protectionism, but I want to find out how viable and how sustainable such a policy would be for Caribbean states or for small states or states of the South, given that the G7 countries have already stated unequivocally that they do not want a protectionist climate within which to manage or maneuver in this financial crisis. And whether or not this type of protectionism will further marginalize small states or whether or not you're saying that this policy should, countries should insulate themselves a bit more in the global financial system. Thank you.
Yes, oh, okay. This is the last question, and then we'll ask our panelists to answer them.
Good morning. Good morning, I'm Anthony Philip Spencer.
I think you need to speak directly.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you. I'm Anthony Philip Spencer. I'm an alumnus of UE's Economics Department and the Institute of International Relations. My question is really driven by a concern over the international system's ability to reconcile how we account for value on the one hand and wealth on the other. The fact that there are people shopping is because there are some people with wealth, while right now there are some people losing wealth. I referred to the comment to the presentation, but first I appreciated both presentations that I was here for. I missed the other two, my apologies. But the particular comment by Mr. Dukaran, which says that there's a permanent loss of wealth, really indicates that there was a previously ignored gap between created wealth and measured wealth that we must now really fully examine. And the question is, what do you think is the correlation between the current earnings reward regime or rule sets, if I could use that term, that dominate the international financial system and the allocation of the value that is assigned to the gap that exists between what we refer to as measured wealth and created wealth? Of course, issues of risk and so on and credit enter into how we define the gap. But my concern is really driven by the fact that we have not been able to reconcile within the international financial system the difference between value and wealth and how we account for the gap between measured wealth and created wealth. Who really holds the wealth that has been created and who has been assigned wealth that has not been created? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dukaran, a couple questions for you on the issue of protectionism and wealth and value. I know that Devish will want to address some of the questions addressed by Jane and Patrick and Anthony as well. So over to you.